OpenAI's experimental AI escaped, attacked another company, and demonstrated a completely new category of cybersecurity threat.
ChatGPT developer OpenAI says its artificial intelligence systems hacked into another AI company on its own. OpenAI said 2 of its AI models were supposed to be walled off from the internet. Somehow they got around that and used stolen credentials to discover a previously unknown vulnerability and access the servers of AI startup.
But the strangest part came afterwards, because the solution OpenAI is now pointing companies towards actually will give OpenAI even more control. By the end of this video, you will see how OpenAI can create the problem, another company can suffer the consequences, and OpenAI can still emerge as the most powerful in the whole scenario. This incident creates a business model that should make everybody uncomfortable. OpenAI was testing how well GPT 5.6 Sol and a more capable unreleased model could turn known software flaws into working cyber attacks. The test used a cybersecurity benchmark called ExploitGym, which gives the model specific vulnerabilities and asks to build working exploits from them. To reveal their true capabilities, normal safety restrictions were weakened and they were placed inside this isolated test environment with no direct access to the internet. But instead of solving the vulnerabilities included in the test, the model became focused on obtaining the answers by cheating. They discovered a previously unknown flaw in the system used to deliver approved software into the test environment, used it to escape, moved across OpenAI's machines, and eventually reached the internet.
Their safeguards in the testing environment were insufficient to begin with, which is how the model got out. Like, it wasn't supposed to get out.
If you built a sandbox that something can use to access the internet, you built a bad sandbox. Like, it's very simple. Build better sandboxes.
I mean, that's straightforward. Like, you can just be like, you were negligent, now you have to pay money.
From there, they concluded that Hugging Face might hold ExploitGym solutions. Using stolen credit card credentials and further vulnerabilities, they attacked his real production systems in an attempt to cheat on the evaluation. Hugging Face, which had no intended involvement in OpenAI's experiment, recorded more than 17,000 actions linked to the intrusion. Imagine running Hugging Face that weekend with all this chaos involved. The production systems are being penetrated by thousands of automated illicit actions, all types of credentials stolen, and their machines broken. Hugging Face then contact law enforcement but have no idea who is attacking them, only to find out it's not a hostile government or a criminal gang, it's another American technology company's private experiment, OpenAI's private experiment, an experiment that went off the rails. Now let's take a step back. The AI was rewarded for achieving the best benchmark result, not for achieving it responsibly. So it treated every restriction as an obstacle between it and the score. And there's an uncomfortable parallel here. AI companies are rewarded for building the most capable models, beating competitors, attracting customers, and controlling valuable infrastructure. Safety measures can slow that race down, while the consequences of failure may fall upon other companies. The model followed this incentive, and the companies developing these models are also operating under powerful incentives of their own.
Very alarming. These AI agents are able to find vulnerabilities in greater volume and greater speed. So speed and volume is the area that the security industry is very, very concerned about.
The uncomfortable question is whether these companies developing these systems are doing the same. So Hugging Face reportedly tried to use publicly available frontier AI models to investigate the attack, but their safety system refused some of the requests because the evidence contained real hacking commands. This meant Hugging Face could not access a frontier model capable of assisting with the investigation, while the attacking system had been operating with reduced restrictions. OpenAI's proposed solution is a new program they have been developing called Trusted Access for Cyber, which gives approved cybersecurity organizations access to less restricted models. And there lies what feels like a scam, or what I would call a scam. The victim of OpenAI's experiment now needs an OpenAI product. A win-win for OpenAI. Now, under this Trusted Access program, verified cybersecurity professionals and approved organizations can receive access to more capable or more specific models for legitimate defensive work. OpenAI says Hugging Face is now brought into that program and is encouraging other defenders to apply. Now, on the surface, that makes sense, But Hugging Face, it needs access to tools capable of helping it investigate sophisticated AI-driven attacks. But look at where the system may eventually lead. OpenAI and a small number of other frontier laboratories build increasingly powerful cyber-capable models. Those models, they create a new generation of security threats. Companies discover that ordinary restricted AI products are not powerful enough to defend against them. So those companies have then applied to the frontier laboratories for trusted access to unrestricted or more capable technology. The leading AI companies decide who qualifies, and in this case, that would be OpenAI. They decide which organizations are trustworthy, which countries can have access, and which researchers receive the most powerful tools. You could view it as access to the best cybersecurity AI is like membership of a private intelligence alliance. At the top, there's governments, defense organizations, major corporations, and approved cybersecurity teams who receive the real cyber capabilities. And at the bottom, we've got ordinary companies, small developers, and the general public receive the safer version that is less useful for preventing cyber threats. Now imagine you run a small online business holding customer names, addresses, and payment information, right? You're attacked by an unrestricted AI system, but when you try to use a leading commercial model to investigate the attack, and it refuses because the evidence contains real hacking commands. Meanwhile, the governments, banks, and major corporations, they have approved access to more of the capable models. You are dealing with the same threat, but you do not have access to the same level of defense. And this trusted access, it can create commercial relationships. It can bring large organizations deeper into OpenAI's ecosystem, make companies dependent on OpenAI's models, APIs, and security infrastructure, and position OpenAI so that it's one of the organizations who decides who receives effective protection from the very category of threat that its own models are now kind of creating. You could not design a better advertisement for trusted access for cyber. Before this incident, the program may have sounded like an optional service for service security teams. But after the incident, it could be presented as something every responsible company may eventually need. I do not think the most important question is whether the mystery model was GPT-6, which are just rumors, nor is an accurate conclusion that an AI became evil and went rogue. The more important question is what happens when a private company's experiment escapes its control and becomes somebody else's emergency? Who accepts responsibility? Who compensates the company that has to revoke the credentials, rebuild the machines, and contact law enforcement? And who decides whether the laboratory was reckless or simply testing the frontier? You see, there's no evidence that OpenAI deliberately planned this incident, but OpenAI still benefits from what the incident demonstrated. It gained valuable information about its models, worldwide publicity for their capabilities, and a much stronger argument for why companies may need privileged access to OpenAI's cybersecurity technology. Hugging Face, meanwhile, received the intrusion and the cleanup. And that is the arrangement that should make people feel uncomfortable. OpenAI may help create the threat, decide who receives the strongest protection, and become more powerful regardless of whether its experiments succeed or fail. The experiment belonged to OpenAI, the risk was imposed on somebody else, and if the solution is that companies must now depend on OpenAI to protect themselves from OpenAI level AI, that is not reassurance, that is dependence. And here's the crazy part.
And then kind of like we got not shocked, but kind of like interestingly, we managed to defend this cyber attack with an open model coming out of China. So
Yes.
many kind of like interesting, eye-opening things happening in the past few weeks.
Hugging Face eventually investigated the attack using GLM 5.2. This is a Chinese open weight model running on its own infrastructure. Publicly available frontier models had refused parts of the investigation, but GLM could analyze the real attack evidence without attacking OpenAI or anybody else for permission. So maybe the answer is not every company must become dependent on OpenAI's trusted access program. Perhaps companies need powerful models they can eventually own and control themselves. Let the battle between open source and closed models begin.